Okay, so today we're going to have a look at the test 10 of the McGraw-Hill 10 practice tests. Alright, question 1. In triangle ABC below, the measure of angle A is 20. Okay. The measure of angle B is 3 times larger than C. So if C is x, we'll make B 3x. What is the measure of angle B? Alright. So we can add these three together and set them equal to 180. Right. So 3x and x is 4x. Okay. Subtract 20 from both sides, and we get 4x equals 160. Divide by 4, x equals 40. The 65-member high school band raised money to go on a trip by having a bake sale. If the original cost per band member for the trip is $18.50, and the band members earned a total of this much, how much more money does each band member need in order to pay for the trip? Let's see. So you have 65-member bake club. The original cost per band member is $18.50. This is dollars per member. This is how many members. Okay. So right away, multiplying these together, members will cancel out, and we'll have dollars. So that's how many dollars that they would need. So let's grab the calculator. So let's see, we'll multiply 65 times 1850, and we get 1202.5. Right, so that's how much they need altogether. So they made a 585, so we can subtract that off because they've already made that much. So subtract 585, that leaves 617.50. How much more money does each band member need to make? So we need to then divide it by the number of band members, which is 65. Alright, next question. Fred works at a car wash where he makes $40 per day. So that's $40 per day. Plus $1.75 per car. $1.75 per car. Okay. How many cars did he wash yesterday if he made $61? Okay. So we can get rid of the days because we're only dealing with one day. But we're dealing with X amount of cars. Okay. So we add these together, we're supposed to get $160. Or sorry, $61. So if you notice, the cars cancels out here, leaving dollars. So dollars plus dollars equals dollars. So that's good. Now that I know that, I can then get rid of the units. I don't need it anymore. It's just part of the setup. Okay. So now from here I could subtract 40. That gives me 21. And $1.75 here. Divide by $1.75 on both sides. Use the calculator. So 21 divided by 1.75. And I get 12. Let me go back up for a minute. I'm just now realizing that this x was a partial answer, right? We need 3x, which is going to be 120. So always double check what they're asking for in the end. Yeah. Right, number 4. Molality M tells us the number of moles of solute dissolved in exactly 1 kilogram of solvent. Molality is represented by this equation, M equals S over K, where S represents the moles of solute and K represents the mass in kilograms. If a solution is known to have a molality of 0.2, okay, and 13 kilograms of solvent, so then we could solve for X. Multiply that by 13, and that should give us 2.6. In the figure below, L1 is parallel to L2, okay, and L3 is parallel to L4, right? So the ones that look parallel are parallel. Which of the following angles is not equal to angle X? Okay, well I would say E is equal to angle X because that's corresponding angles, and then D would be corresponding with that. Let's see. I would say B would be corresponding with D. And I would say A would be vertical with that. So C is the only one that's not equal. In fact, C is greater than 90, whereas all these others are less than 90. Which of the following is equivalent to this? So we'd have to move the decimal 5 places to the left. So we move it once to the left and then add 4 zeros in front. So I'm going to go with choice F. So number 7, you're multiplying by 0.01. You could obviously do it in the calculator, but you can also just realize that this has the decimal place moved twice to the left, which this is going to absorb. So it's going to move the decimal twice to the left here, putting 1 0 out in front. Here, number 8, we could factor the top. So we use trinomial factoring. So the first one takes the sign of this term here. Then this plus means that both signs are going to be the same. And we're looking for multiples of 1. So it has to be 1 and 1. Those do combine to -2. This will cancel the bottom. And we'll find x minus 1 as our result. Okay, so 9 plus 2 is 11. Alright. Then we can subtract 11 from both sides. We get negative x to the third is equal to 8. So from here we can negate both sides. That will lead the minus sign to go on there. Then we raise both sides to the 1/3 power. And then x would have to equal negative 8 to the 1/3 power, which would be -2. In the parallelogram below, what is the measure of angle WXY? WXY is over here. Okay. So it's a parallelogram, so we know that we have alternate interior angles. So this would be 25. Then let's see. Yeah, if we were to sort of look at this as parallel lines, then 55, this would also be 55, right? Okay, so we'll write 55 here. And so we have a triangle with 55 and 25. So that adds up to 80. So that leaves 100 more to make 180. The graph below represents which of the following inequalities? This would be x is greater than or equal to -1. Alright, so from here, just grab the calculator, do 342, subtract 93, so that'll give you -x, and then just negate both sides, you get -249. If the length of AB is 6 units, the length of BX is 10 units, the length of XC is 4 units, what is the length of BC? Okay. Alright, so 6 blank 10, this would have to be 8, because we remember our Pythagorean triples are 3, 4, 5, and then anything double or triple of that, so 6, 8, 10 is 1. So we know that this bottom part here is 8. So now we have the bottom part being 8, and the other bottom part is being 12, because 8 plus 4. So we can set up our similar triangles here. So the small triangle here, the big triangle here, corresponding parts. So 8 is to 12 as 10 is to x. Right? Cross multiply, you get 8x equals 120, divide by 8. So 120 divided by 8, you get 15. Why is that not a choice? Let's see here. 6, 8. Oh, well, these triangles are not similar at all, are they? Yeah, so we can't use similar triangles. The only way you could use similar triangles is if both triangles have the same, all the same angles, and that's clearly not the case here. So let's think of another option. Let's see. Oh, okay. Well, we know that the big triangle has still got the 6, and it's also got the 12 here. So now using 6 and 12 could do Pythagorean theorem. So 6 squared plus 12 squared square root. So we'll grab a calculator. Actually, we'll do 144 and 36. So it's going to be 180. So we do a square root of 180. We have to simplify the radical. Let's see. We could do 9 and 20. And then that would give us 3 rad 20. And then we could go further with 20. We could go 4 and 5. So that would give us 2 rad 5 to go with the 3. So 6 rad 5, choice E. Rectangular parking lot has an area of 315 square yards. So that's length times width. Would have to be 315. If its length is 3 times its width, which of the following equations can you use? Alright. Well, let's see. What I'd probably do is I'd probably sub this in for L here. So let's see if any of them have that. No, not quite. Right. Or do they? Yeah, they do. 3W times W is 315. So that's choice F. Jordan went for a 3.5 mile jog on Monday that took him 40 minutes. So 3.5 miles in 40 minutes. If on Tuesday Jordan jogs at the same rate of speed, how far will he jog? So this is going to be a direct proportion. How far in 60 minutes? All right, so now that we set it up, the proper units, we can just erase the units. And then we can solve for x. So we move the 60 over to here. And then 60 over 40 just becomes 6 over 4. And then you can, let's see. Well, let's just use the calculator to be lazy about it. So 3.5 times 6. Divide that by 4. And you get 5.25. How many square feet of tile are needed to cover the entire floor? That's an area question, right? This area fills the space in the middle. So let's see here. I think we should cut it off maybe here. Okay. Then we could do 5 by 16. So 5 and so this is 30. 5 and 3 is 8. So this is 80. This piece. And then we have to subtract 5 from 19 and get 14 is left over for this dimension. Times the 10 would give 140. So 140 and 80, that would be 220. There are 32 ounces in 1 quart. If 2 quarts of milk, okay, so right away I can multiply by 2 on top and bottom and realize that that's 64 ounces. Then 2 quarts of milk costs $2.65. What is the cost of milk per ounce? So we want dollars per ounce. Okay. Right. So we know that 2 quarts corresponds with 64 ounces. So instead of 2 quarts here, we could write 64 ounces. Okay. And then we can end up flipping this thing upside down. So 2.65 divided by 64. So that's 0.04. Okay. And the unit there would be dollars per ounce, right? In the figure below, triangle ABC is 30, 60, 90. Right? So this would be the 90 degree for sure. If angle X measures 125 degrees, okay, what is the measure of angle Y? Okay, well, wouldn't they have to be supplementary? So 180 minus 125 would be 55. Given the system equations below, what does X equal? Okay, so let's see. So what I'd like to do is get rid of Y by multiplying through by 3 here. So we get 6x minus y equals 18. And then here I have got 3x plus y is 9 from that first equation. So stacking these together, we would get 9x equals 27 divided by 9, and you get x equals 3. Okay. Alright, so here we notice that these 4's will cancel, giving 5/3. And here we get 2 over 9. Then we could keep change flip, 9 over 2, multiply. And then this 9 over 3 would just give me a 3 on top. So I would get a total of 15 over 2. Okay. Alright, for all x, what does this equal? So we could distribute this minus sign. So that gives minus 3x plus 2. And then we could distribute this 2x. So we get 8x squared minus 2x. Now we've got a minus 3x with a minus 2x. And we've got 8x squared with a 1x squared. So that's 9x squared. And that's minus 5x. And we still have the plus 2. So choice C. So here it looks like we can factor. We get x and x. The minus sign goes first. Then this tells me that they're both the same, so there's another minus. Now it has to multiply to 9. 3 and 3 will do the trick, and that will combine to minus 6. On the bottom we use GCF factoring. Factoring out of 6, so we get x minus 3. These will cancel. So we'll get x minus 3 over 6. If x equals 3 is one solution, what is the value of a? So we can plug in 3, since it's a solution. Okay. 3 squared is 9, times 2 is 18, minus 15. Okay. So we add a to both sides. We get 3 equals a. The figure below, triangles PQR, PSQ, and QSR are right triangles. If the measure of angle P is 55, what is the measure of angle R? Okay. Well, right away, we know that this is a right triangle, the big one. So it just have to be that these are complementary, so that they add up to 90. So that would mean that the other one would be 35. So 35 and 55 is 90, and the other 90 is there. Daniel is painting a wall in his bedroom. He can cover 36 square feet with 1 gallon of paint. If the wall is 8 feet high and 12 feet long, how many gallons of paint will he need to paint the whole wall? So we can multiply this to get an area, which would be, I believe, 96 feet squared. Okay, so this is how many feet squared per gallon. So if we have 96 feet squared, that would go with x gallons, right? So now that I set it up properly, the proportion, I can then get rid of the units. Okay, and then I can just cross multiply. So I get 36x equals 96 divided by 36. And x would equal, let's see, 96 over 36. Alright, so 2.6. So that would mean 3 gallons, right? For what values of x, y, and z, for all values, which of the following cannot be true? Okay, so x is less than or equal to y, and y is less than or equal to z. So in general, they're in this order, x, y, z, from least to greatest. But they might also be the same as each other. So can x equal z? Yeah, it can. So this can be true. We're looking for which cannot be true. So we can eliminate anything that involves 1. right? Can x be greater than z? No, that's out of the question. So we would want to have 2 in our answer. Okay? As shown in the figure below, what is the sine of angle C? So the sine of C, using SOHCAHTOA, that gives us opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite is 1. The hypotenuse is unknown as of the moment right now, but we could do a Pythagorean theorem to figure it out, right? So we get rad 26. So we could plug that in then, rad 26, and that gives us choice B. What is the sum of all solutions to this equation? Alright. Let's see here. Well, we have x equals 0 as a solution, but that's not going to contribute to a sum, right? So I can end up canceling this out. This 4x and 4x I cancel out. I just get 1 over these. Then I flip both sides and I get this equals this. Then I can subtract x. Alright, then I could subtract 2. I get x equals negative 3. That's my other solution. Alright, absolute negative 2 is just 2, and then 2 squared is 4. Alright, absolute negative 5 is just 5. Alright, so that's 9 minus 3, which is 6. Alright, in the figure below, parallel lines are bisected by line AB. Alright. So XY, alright, so bisected means that these are equal pieces, even though it doesn't look that way. Same thing here, line YZ, line ZW is also bisected. So it breaks into 2 equal parts. If the lengths of XY, YZ, so XY, YZ, and ZW are all the same, and angle T is 45 degrees. So here's angle T being 45. Then what is the measure of angle S? Okay. So right away, vertical angles tells me that this is 45. Okay. And now I got to use the fact that these lengths are the same. So the whole thing of XY and the whole thing of YZ and the whole thing of ZW, they're all equal. So how can I use that? Usually when we have equal parts, we usually look for something like isosceles triangles, right? Let's see if any of that applies here. Right, let's see. Well, yeah, we also know that XY and ZW are parallel. So whatever angle is here, it would also be here, right? Because these are alternate interior angles. So these are going to be equal angles here. Let's see. Alright. Well, if I was to draw in this extra piece for top and bottom here, then let's see, I would have a rhombus, wouldn't I? Yeah, I would have a rhombus because I know that, for example, XY equals WZ. XY and WZ are the same length, right? And they're also apparently bisected by this line cutting through here. So, I mean, a better drawing would show, right, a rhombus here, and then a bisector would be at half the height, right? So it would run through sort of parallel to everything. Yeah, so that would be a better drawing of the same situation. And yeah, we also have another line that's cutting across this diagonal. Right, so let's use this picture instead, shall we? So we know that this is 40. Whoop, that's not 45. We know that this is 45 here and here. So obviously these would be 135, right? What am I missing here? Should we come back to it? Right, so add 3 to both sides. We get x squared less than or equal to 16. Square root both sides. We get x, well, technically I should solve this out correctly. Subtract the 16 and then factor this. I get x plus 4x minus 4 less than or equal to 0. So if I make it equals, I could t-chart and get negative 4 and 4 as my key values. Then I can bring it to the number line and check each region, okay? So let's see. Usually for less than we would shade inwards. So chances are it's going to be this with colored in circles here. But just to check, we'll plug in 0 and see if that's a solution. 0, yeah, because we'd get negative 16 less than 0, so that would work. So we're shading inside, right? What's the greatest value of x that can be occurring is 4, right? In an isosceles right triangle, the hypotenuse is 12. Okay, so these are equal, and this is 12. What is the length of one of the sides? So this is going to be our x rad 2 side, whereas these are x. So if x rad 2 equals 12, then we divide by rad 2, and that gives us x equals 12 over rad 2. Right? But if we want to rationalize that, we do rad 2 on top and bottom, so we get 12 rad 2 over 2, which equals 6 rad 2. Okay? So choice F. The standard xy coordinate plane, what is the center of this circle? So we take the opposite of each coordinate. So we get 2, negative 1 as our center. What is the slope of the line? Okay, so we could swing the 3y to this side, make it 3y plus 6 equals 2x. We could minus 6 from both sides. Then we could divide by 3 on each piece. And the slope then would be 2/3. Okay, 50 households were surveyed. What is the average number of TVs per household? Okay, let's see. So this is again a frequency chart where there are 5 households that have this property. So that's a total of 10 TVs. So that's 60 TVs, 60 and 50. So we add these together to get the total number of TVs. 120 and 50 is 170 and 10 is 180. That's how many TVs we're dealing with. How many households are we dealing with? We just add these together. 9 and 5 is 14 houses. So to get the average number of TVs per household, we could divide the total number of TVs by the total number of households. Okay, so 180 over 14, and that's 12.857. Hang on a moment. Whoops. That's not the households, is it? The 14. Nope. We were supposed to add this column right here. That's the number of households, right? So it comes out to 50 if I did it right. So let me just do that over. So 180 over 50, 3.6. So that's 3.6. Figure below, both circles are centered around x. The length of xy is 2 units. The length of xz is 6 units. If the smaller circle is cut out of the larger, how much area will remain? So they want to know the area of this donut, right? So first thing we would do is find the area of the bigger circle, which we use pi r squared. So pi times 6 squared is 36 pi. Next we could do the area of the smaller circle, which again is pi r squared. So that's going to be pi 2 squared. So that's going to be 4 pi, right? Okay. Then we could subtract those areas from one another, and you get that there's 32 pi left over. In the standard xy coordinate plane, what is the x-intercept of the line that has a slope of 2/3 and passes through this point xy? So this is m, so we have the equation y equals mx plus b. We could plug in y, m, and x, figure out b. All right? So we have a slope of 2/3. The x value is -2. The y value is 2. So this would make -4/3. Okay. So now we have to add 4/3 to 2. We could do that in the calculator. 2 plus 4/3. And this we could turn into a fraction, math, fraction, enter. 10/3. So 10/3 equals b. So we now have our full equation, which would be 2/3 x plus 10/3. And we're looking for the x-intercept, which is where y equals to 0. So we could plug in 0 for y, okay, and find out what that intercept is. So the first step I would do is multiply by 3 on both sides of the equation, basically on every single piece. So multiply by 3 there, and by there. So it's still 0 on the left side. Here the 3's cancel to give 2x. Here the 3's cancel to give 10. Then I could subtract 10 from both sides. -10 equals 2x. Divide by 2. X equals -5. So choice B. The figure below represents the solution set for which of the following inequalities? All right. So we know that this is going to be x is greater than or equal to -2. So one of these, when solved, should read exactly that. So let's try our luck here. We'll start at the bottom. So if I subtract 3x, I get 3x, and if I add 3, I get 5. So that's no good. Let's try J. If I subtract 3x, I get 2x, and if I subtract 3, I get -4. Then I divide by 2 both sides, and I get x is greater than or equal to -2. So this is the winner. What is the slope of the line pictured in the standard xy coordinate plane that passes through this point and this point? So I could do a change in y over a change in x, right? So the y value goes from 3 to 5, so that goes up 2. The x value goes from 1 to 5, that goes up 4. So the slope would be 1/2. Okay, a formula is I equals P times R. If the amount of interest earned is $2.25, so that's I, and the interest rate is 3%, so we should plug in 3% for R. That's 0.03. What is P? So we divide by 0.03, because remember, 3% as a decimal is 0.03. You have to move the decimal twice to the left. So, whoops, 2.25 divided by 0.03, you get 75. 3 vertices of a triangle are this, this, this. What is the 4th vertex? Oh, it's a rectangle, sorry. So if you notice, this y value repeated already, so then this y value also has to repeat. And then this x value already repeated, so then this x value also has to repeat. So we get -2, 2. If 2 lines in the standard xy coordinate plane are perpendicular, and the slope of one of the lines is -5/7, what is the slope of the other? So we take a negative reciprocal of this, and we end up with 7/5. Right? We flip and negate. Anne made apple jelly and applesauce out of a bushel of apples. If the number of jars of jelly, J, is 3 less than twice the number of applesauce. So twice applesauce minus 3. So notice we have to switch the order when it's less than, right? Which equation shows that as a result? So this exact one is not appearing. However, I can add 3 to both sides. I will get J plus 3 equals 2A. Alright? What are the solutions for this equation? So for this one, I would just plug them in, starting with 1, because that's easy to plug in. So 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3. Minus 5 plus 2. 3 plus 2 is 5, minus 5 is 0. This works. So 1 works. Anything that doesn't have 1 is out. So that brings me down to these two choices. So I'll next try 2/3. Okay. So we'll go 2/3 in here. Squaring that will give me 4/9. Multiply that by 3. And then have a 2/3 here. Plus 2. So the 3 and the 9 makes a 3 on the bottom. Okay. And then I've got 4/3 minus what here would be 10/3 plus this would really be 6/3, wouldn't it? If I multiply by 3 on top and bottom there. So then 4 and 6 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. Okay, so that also works. So it's choice G. What is the smallest possible value of a where y equals sine 2a reaches its maximum? Okay, so we have to understand what the sine function is doing. So it's kind of doing this, right? Where this is 0 and this is 2 pi. So that means that this would have to be at pi and this would have to be at pi over 2. So we want the argument or angle to be equal to pi over 2 because that's where the function will hit its maximum. And if you didn't know this behavior about sine, you could also determine that using the unit circle. So we know that the sine is maximum when we're in this position, which is at 90 degrees, right? So anyway, we want the argument, which is 2a, we want that to equal pi over 2, right? So then what would a have to be? Well, if we divide by 2, both sides, a would have to equal pi over 4, right? Okay, so let x equals 3y minus 4z plus 7. What happens to the value of x when the value of y decreases by 2? So y becomes y minus 2, and the value of z becomes z plus 1. Alright, so we're plugging in y minus 2 for y, and we're plugging in z plus 1 for z. Okay, and so we distribute the 3. We end up with 3y minus 6. That minus 6 is a new piece. Minus 4z, right? Minus 4, that's a new piece as well. Actually, should it be minus 4? Yeah. Plus 7. So now we regroup the pieces that are not circled. That's the original stuff. And then we regroup these two circled pieces to make minus 10. So if you notice, it's the original thing that we had in the beginning, minus 10. So we're losing 10. It decreases by 10. Which of the following represents the values of x that are solutions for this inequality? Alright, so if you pretend that it equals 0 for a moment, then you'll find the key numbers. X equals 1 and 4. So we could plot those on a number line and then test the little sections here. So we can use the test point of 0 to test out the left hand side here. So if we put in 0 to our original, let's see what we would get. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. 4 minus 0 is 4. So those make negative 4, which is less than 0. That's true. So we'd have to fill in this region here. Okay. And then similarly, I could plug in a value of 5 to test this region. So 4 minus 5 is negative 1. And then 5 minus 1 is 4. So we get negative 4, which is again less than 0. That's true. So this gets shaded in to the right here. And if we plugged in 2 or something in the middle here, that should come out positive, right? So we get x has to be either less than 1 or x has to be greater than 4. And that's what choice B says. The figure below, triangle PQR is isosceles right triangle. What is the ratio of the hypotenuse to the length of PQ? Well, we know it's going to be x rad 2, right? So if that's 1, then it means x is 1. So it's just going to be rad 2. So the ratio of the hypotenuse is going to be rad 2 to PQ, which is 1. It's just going to be rad 2 to 1. Choice H. If tan x is 3/4, then what's cos x? Alright. So we can make our, we're in from 0 to 90, so we're in the first quadrant. Make a reference triangle here. We could use this as angle x. And let's see. So the tangent of x is 3/4, so that's opposite is 3 and adjacent is 4. Alright, so this is a 3/4 blank triangle. Of course, the hypotenuse would be 5. And the cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so it would be 4/5. Alright, so from here, right away my eyes notice that this can be factored out from the bottom, and I would be left with b minus 2a for the other section. And of course then these can cancel, leaving me with 1 over b minus 2a. Alright, what is the perimeter of triangle PXQ? PXQ. So that's this right here. Okay. Let's see. Well, we know a few things here, that x is the midpoint. So we know that this would be 4 and 4. Okay. So again, here we've got a isosceles right triangle, so we know that this would be 4 rad 2. Okay. Same thing here. 4 rad 2. So if we add these up, we get 8 rad 2 plus 8 for the perimeter of that triangle. Alright, so here's xy. What's the value of t? Okay. So having a slope of 2/3 would mean that you go up 2 and you go over 3. Okay? So now you can use that on your idea here, right? So, and when I say over, I really mean to the right by 3, okay? So anyway, from here, we want to go from 4 down to -2 on the x's. So we want to go down, we want to go to the left by 6 units, right? So the question is, if we do decide to go to the left by 6 units, right, how much would we go up or down by? So if we went to the right by 3, we went up by 2, which means if we went to the right by 6, doubling that, we'd have to also double this to make it 4. But now the problem is we're not going to the right, we're going to the left. So that switches this to down. So we have to go down 4. So from 3 we have to go down 4, we get to -1. Right? So let's see, did I do this correctly? Oh no. No, I messed it up because I switched x and y. So let's start over. Okay, so we go up 2 when we go to the right 3. Now, let's see. Oh, these are y's. Okay. Right? Aren't they? Yeah, these are y's. So the y went down by 6. Down 6. Right? So the y is on the top here. So instead of going up 2, I went down 6. You see? So if I went down by 2, I would have to go to the left by 3. But then if I triple this, if I went down by 6, I would have to go to the left by 3 times 3, which is 9. So I have to go to the left 9. So I have to minus 9 away from this 3. 3 minus 9 is -6. So that's where I'll end up. Now if you didn't like that method, there's another method you could use. Okay? You could use sort of mx plus b, right? Y equals mx plus b. So here's 4 equals 2/3 times 3 plus b. These 3's will cancel. Alright? And then you could subtract 2 to get b equals to 2. Right? So now we have m and b, we could plug them in. So m is 2/3 and b, what did we get for that? Did we get 2? Right? Then we could plug -2 in for y and find out what x is. Alright? So -2 again, so that would give us -4 on this side. We can then multiply by 3/2, the reciprocal, right? On both sides. This will cancel. So we have to do -4 times 3/2. Well, 4 over 2 is just 2 on top with a negative sign. And then that makes -6. Okay? Jose is building a scale model of a sailboat. The actual sailboat's mainsail measures 56 high with a base of 32. If the model's mainsail has a base of 8, how tall would it be? Right? So there's your proportion. X is to 56 as 8 is to 32. So then you can move the 56 over to here diagonally. 8, 16, 24, 32. So this would make really a 4 on the bottom, right? Then you could divide 56 by 4. So in case you're getting lazy, just can use the calculator. You get x equals 14, right? What values of x makes this true? So we can add 5x to both sides. All right, so that gives us 8x there. We could subtract 1. Okay, we could divide by 8. So we get -1 greater than x, or in other words, x less than -1. The figures below, the length of the sides of the triangle are shown. BD bisects AC. So this is split into 2 equal parts. Now if you notice, this is a 4, 5 with blank. It has to be 3. 3, 4, 5, right? Which means this is also 3, which means the total is 6. What is the length of DC? Oh, we've already done it. Which of the following intervals contains the solution to this equation? All right. So the first thing is to clear the denominator by moving the 3 to here. Okay. So we get distribute. We get 3x minus 6 equals 2x plus 5. Subtract 2x, and we find this. We add 6. We get x equals 11. Right. So this contains x equals 11. In the figure below, P and Q lie on the circle, which has a radius of 9. So these are both length 9. If the angle is 120 degrees, what is the area of the sector? Okay. So the first thing I would do is find the circumference, which is 2 pi radius. So 2 pi 9, so 18 pi. And then I realize that I'm dealing with 120 degrees out of 360. You see? So it's only, this reduces to 1/3. Okay. So I'm dealing with 1/3 of the circle. So I take 1/3 of the circumference. That gives me 6 pi. Why is that not a choice? Oh, right. So then they're asking for PRQ, which is the other side. So that would be the other 12 pi, right? Well, still not a choice. PRQ. PRQ. Sorry. No. PRQ. Yeah, this must be a typo, right? We've got a radius of 9, 2 pi radius, it's 18 pi for the circumference. 1/3 of that is 6 pi. Yeah, the answer is most certainly 6 pi for this sector. Oh, they're asking for the area of the sector. Oh, I see. Alright, so I did it as though they were asking me for the arc length. Okay, let's reset. So instead of using circumference formula, I should have used area formula, right? So the area is pi r squared. So that's pi times 9 squared. So that's 81 pi. So that's the area of the whole thing. And then again, I take 1/3 of that. Right? So this is really 3 to the 4th. So I get 3 to the 3rd, which is 27 pi. Given the graph below, the slope of line A is m sub A, slope of line B is m sub B, which of the following statements about slopes of lines is true. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's make up a slope for A. Let's call this 1/2, right? It looks like it might be about a half. Then the other one has to be perpendicular, which means a negative reciprocal. So this one would have to be -2, right? So let's see. Well, let's test out if this is true. So if I plug in A's value, which is 1/2, that's equal to negative 1 over negative 2. Is that true? Yes, it is. All right, so that one works. And it turns out this is going to be the right answer. Right? So you can go through and check the others using this plugging in method, but the whole idea is that when you take the product of MA times MB, that's going to equal negative 1. Because that's true for anything that's a reciprocal of each other, that's going to equal 1, but if they're negative reciprocals, then you're going to get a negative in there as well. Alright, so here we have what looks to be a first quadrant angle, x, because both cosine and tangent are positive. This is the all section. So certainly our sign is going to be positive, and let's see what it's going to equal. So the cosine of x is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's going to be 5 for adjacent, and hypotenuse is going to be 7. The tangent is opposite over adjacent, so the opposite is 4, and the adjacent is 5. So here's our numbers, 5, 4, and 7. So what is the sine of x? The sine of x would have to be opposite over hypotenuse, 4 over 7. Right? Now, of course, this doesn't make any sense because 4, 5, 7 is not a Pythagorean triple. So kind of a bad question there. A total of F men went on a fishing trip. Okay, so right away with these we usually will plug in numbers, right? So let's say we had a total of 8 men go on a fishing trip. Each of the R boats that were used to carry the fishermen, so let's say there were 4 boats, could accommodate a maximum number of, let's say, 2 passengers. If one boat had 5 open spots, oh, I see. So now we could adjust this number here to make it, what, 13? Or, no, sorry. So yeah, we have to actually pick special numbers here. So it might be a little more difficult than it was seeming at first glance. Right. So let's take a different approach. Right. So you have F men on a fishing trip. Each of R boats. So you have R boats, and then M passengers per boat. Let's call them men, seeing as they called it men here. Not to be sexist, of course, but M men per boat times R boats. So if we multiply those together, we get MR, also known as RM, and that has units of men, right? Same as this number F has units of men, okay? And they're saying that there's 5 open spots on one of the boats. So that means that the number of men that you have is 5 less than the capacity. Alright, here's the capacity. So the number of men we have is 5 less than the capacity of the boats. So here would be my equation. Is that a choice? It looks like choice G, right? Yeah. Alright, now let's jump back to that one we skipped way up top, somewhere in the 30s. Alright, so let's just start this thing over. Okay, and the figure below, parallel lines are bisected by line AB. Alright, if the lengths of XY, YZ, and ZW, XY, YZ, and ZW are all the same, angle T is 45. Angle T is 45, right? So right away we know that it's 45, and these are 135. Okay. What is a measure of angle S? All right. Good. So X, Y, and ZW are bisected. So again, I'd be inclined to draw this over. So really we have a rhombus here. Okay, so all 4 sides should be equal, And then we have a line that's cutting through halfway. And then we have this other piece here. So I'm inclined to believe that these angles are actually going to be equal. Okay, 45 and 45. Reason for that is I believe that this line should be parallel to the others in order for it to bisect both of these end points. Okay, so yeah, that's my answer G.